Chapter 5. The Threat of War. My first request was to see the inside of Mildendo. The Emperor gave me permission, but cautioned me to be careful of the people and their homes. The people were told in advance of my visit, and everyone hurried indoors, not only to protect themselves, but to watch me from their top floor windows. Leaving my long jacket at home so it wouldn't strike someone's roof, I gently and carefully climbed over the city wall and walked along one of the wide main streets to the palace at the center of the city. I climbed over the palace wall into a large outer courtyard. The Emperor wanted me to see all the buildings in the palace and also his royal apartments, but since the space between the buildings was too narrow for me to place my feet on the ground, I spent the next 3 days cutting down the largest trees in the land and making two very strong stools. By standing on one stool in the large outer courtyard and placing the second stool down into a smaller courtyard, then lifting the first one and repeating this process several times, I was able to step over the buildings, from one stool to another, to get to the innermost court where the royal apartments were located. Once there, I lay down on my side, and brought my eyes up against the middle-story windows of the palace. Inside, I saw the most magnificent rooms I could ever imagine. The young princes were there at play, with the Empress and her attendants watching over them. This was a far different scene from other Lilliputian homes, where children were with their families. Instead, they were raised in nurseries and permitted to see their parents only twice a year, and then for only half an hour. When the Empress saw me, or rather my eye, at her window watching her and her children, she reached out her hand for me to kiss it. How honored I was to do so. I was truly enjoying my freedom and the privileges that the Emperor had granted me. I was allowed to cut down the largest trees in the royal park to make a table and chair for myself, instead of eating on the ground. Over 300 cooks prepared excellent meals for me, and were amazed to see me eat a whole turkey or goose in one mouthful. I was also given 200 seamstresses who made new shirts for me, using my old one as a pattern, and 300 tailors who used ladders to climb up and measure my body to make a new suit for me. Because the suit was made of small patches of cloth sewn together, it came out looking much like the patchwork quilts English ladies made as bed coverings. Once I had my new clothes, I invited the Emperor, the Empress, and Flipnap, the Lord High Treasurer, to my home for dinner. I placed them all on my table in the royal chairs, which they had brought with them. I ate a grand dinner, as if to show His Majesty how much I enjoyed his country's food. But as I did so, I noticed Flimnap frowning at me when the Emperor wasn't looking. Is the Lord High Treasurer secretly my enemy? I wondered. I later heard that Flimnap used this dinner to complain to the Emperor that I had already cost the kingdom over 1,000,000 sprugs, their most valuable gold coin, and he was advising His Majesty to send me away before the entire treasury was used up. Flimnap was also foolish enough to be jealous of his wife's friendship with me. While his wife did visit me, it was always with her sister and her children, just as many of the other ladies of the court did. I enjoyed having them sit in their coaches on my table while I answered the questions about English ladies' clothing and manners. How ridiculous Flimnap's jealousy was, to think I could have romantic feelings for a woman as tall as my middle finger. But between his concern for the Emperor's treasury and this jealousy, he became my enemy and used his great influence on the Emperor to try to turn him against me. The one friend I was certain of was Reldstrahl, the Emperor's trusted private secretary, who had done my many favors at court. So I wasn't too surprised to see him ride up to my house one morning and ask for an hour of my time, which I was only too glad to give him. Would you care to have me lie down so you can reach my ears, sir? I asked him. No, that won't be necessary. I'd prefer it if you would hold me in your hand and lift me up, he replied. Once I had him in my hand before my face, Reldstrahl explained. I have come to make you aware of two dangerous situations Lilliput is facing. One is a violent political group here at home, and the other is a threat of invasion from a powerful enemy abroad. I didn't know about any of this, sir, I said in surprise. Please go on. As to the problem here at home, I must explain that there are two groups here in Lilliput, the Tramaxen and the Slamaxen. We can tell them apart by the heels on their shoes. Those who wear high heels obey the ancient rules of our land, but those in low heels are loyal to our emperor and his new laws. Naturally, these low heels hold all the important offices in our government. Can't they work out their problems among themselves? Both groups hate each other so much they won't eat or drink together or talk to one another. Even though there are more Tremexan than Slamexan, our low heels are more powerful right now because of the offices they hold. However, we fear that the prince, who is the heir to the throne, might favor the Tremexan for one of his shoes has a heel higher than the other. This is a sad state since it also makes him walk unevenly. I looked at this little man strangely and realized that he was very serious about these two groups of people. I didn't say anything, but waited for him to go on. Reldresral did. In addition to this fighting within our own kingdom, we are now threatened with an invasion from the island of Blefuscu. Another great empire as large and as powerful as ours. Blefuscu is just across a narrow channel from Lilliput. Are the Blefuscurians the same size as you? Yes, Man Mountain. All the people in our universe are our size. Not at all like you and the people you say live in your kingdom. You must understand that we doubt the existence of such a kingdom with giant creatures like yourself. We believe that you dropped from the moon or a star, because if this universe had more people like you, the food supply would be gone in a few moons. Well, I did not drop from the moon or any star. But enough about that now, Reldresral. Tell me why you're at war with Blefuscu. This war goes back 36 moons to a time when the Emperor's grandfather was a boy. The practice in our entire universe had always been to break eggs at the big end before eating them. When this young prince was doing just that, he happened to cut one of his fingers. This enraged his father, the emperor, who then issued a decree stating that everyone had to break open their eggs at the small end, or be severely punished. A law regarding breaking open eggs? I gasped. Yes, and this angered the people of Blefuscu so much that they started a war over it. During these many moons there have been 6 wars between our 2 kingdoms. One war resulted in an emperor losing his crown. Another ended with an emperor losing his life. All told, 11,000 people have been put to death, all because they defied that law and continued breaking open their eggs at the big end. 11,000 put to death over breaking eggs! I cried in disbelief. And to make matters worse during these wars, the Emperor of Blefuscu encouraged Lilliputian Big Endians, those who broke their eggs at the big end, to continue defying their emperor. He even helped them to escape and come to live in his kingdom. And this war that started 36 moons ago is still going on? Yes, we will win some and the Blefuscudians win some. We've lost 40 large ships, a great number of smaller ones, and 30,000 of our best sailors and soldiers. But the Blefuscudian losses are said to be even greater than ours. Then why do you fear a new attack? We just learned that the Blefuscudians have rebuilt their fleet, even larger than before, and they are preparing to attack. And why have you come to me with this news? I asked. His Majesty knows how strong and brave you are. He is certain that you will be ready to risk your life by defending him and his kingdom against these invaders. I stand to serve His Majesty in any way I can. It's the least I can do to repay him for his kindness and hospitality. And so, I prepared to go to war.